Alright, now we're getting to a short and simple level, the Spire. Not too much going on in this one. We're just going to be focused on getting some Spartan cores, and the main bulk of the level will be the two hunters at the base of the Spire and the boss fight. Now I want to apologize ahead of time, as the save files I have for these LASO runs ended up getting progressed a little too far before I was able to get the footage for this. So I won't be able to show you my progress in getting the fob that we're getting today, or the two Spartan cores. But I will go through and run it back how I got those, and I'll explain as we're walking up, and I'll explain the path we took to get there as well. So as you start the level, we're going to be taking advantage of the way vehicle physics work with the cowbell and boom skull on, and we're essentially going to fast travel our way to the fob that we're going to take over. So towards your left, you'll see Sleeping Grunts with some ghosts, and we'll shoot a rocket under the ghost and grapple hook the ghost at the same time. So shoot your rocket and then immediately grapple onto it, and you can kind of see that'll just launch you into the air. And depending on how or where you shoot the rocket in proportion to the ghost, you can launch yourself more forward or more higher up in the air, and it just depends on where the rocket launches the vehicle that you're shooting in this case. Now you're going to want to aim to get onto these little hexagonal pillars here, this little mountain side, and when you get to the fob, it's just going to be two invisible elites. And there's going to be one up top and there's going to be one below. They'll be kind of in scattered positions. They won't always be in the same spot, but one will be above, one will be below, and you'll just lob rockets at them. You don't even have to stun them, because honestly you can just keep shooting your rockets, and the physics will just launch them away, and whenever they land, they'll die that way. So once you get your fob, we're just going to summon up a Warthog or Razorback, and now we're going to set our sights onto this Spartan core down to the south side. This Spartan core will be inside the mountain, but we're going to do the same trick where we're going to launch ourselves using the Razorback. And you don't have to be doing these. For both instances, you can get to the fob or the Spartan core just by traveling around the mountain, but it's going to take a lot longer. You're essentially just going to aim yourself facing towards where the Spartan core will be. You rocket under the Razorback or Warthog, whichever one you choose, and then grapple onto the vehicle. And you will launch yourself pretty far that way. That way it saves you a little bit more time, and you don't have to just grapple around the mountainside the entire time. But if you don't want to do this trick, it's still perfectly safe to just grapple around the mountain cliffside and make your way over this way, but I prefer this way since it's pretty easy and also pretty safe. Now we're going to start making our way down the mountain. You'll see one that's pretty far down, and you want to make sure you have your dynamos ready, because there's going to be an elite and a couple grunts there. Now you don't necessarily have to kill them. You could just stun them, grab the Spartan core that's right here, and then immediately grapple up, or you could kill them, up to you. They're not too bad either way, but if you choose not to kill them, you'll grab it and then run up here, where we'll then fast travel back to the fob. You only want to grapple up there because if you didn't kill them, you're going to get shot at while you're in the menu screen, so you don't want to do that. Now, I forgot to mention that it's actually important that you have your thrusters for this, because if you launch yourself too far or too well, you actually won't lose any momentum when you're flying in the air, and you'll just go on forever. But if you use your thrusters, you can use it to stop your momentum just by aiming in the opposite direction you're flying in and using it. But now we're going to do the exact same thing going to this core that was on screen there. Just going to position ourselves back on the back of the fob here and launch the rocket and ourselves, or the Warthog and ourselves. And we're just going to make our way across this main Spire base in order to get to a Spartan core that'll be right next to a crashed landing ship. Now there are going to be a couple brutes and some other banished around here, but I honestly didn't even have to worry about killing them. You're not going to have to worry about them. You can kind of see the skewer being aimed at me, but so long as you're quick, that's the only thing you have to worry about. And now we're on the hardest part of this fight, or this level, is the hunters. So we're just going to wrap around this little inside wall here. Going to grab that explosive canister, and we're going to run around until we can see one of them, and we're going to throw it at him, and that way it does a little bit more damage than this our rocket does. So we throw that. I tried doing another one, but I ended up launching the hunter far, and then we're going to retreat back into this little wall. You're going to be using this spot here where it's in between these two walls very frequently. We're just going to be popping in and out, making sure that the hunters lose track of where we are, fire 2 rockets, pop back in, maybe jump above, do a couple more shots, but you generally just want to be popping back in and out of these double wall sections here, because it is the safest place to be firing from, and you're not going to be getting hit very often. And that's why it's not always the best idea to jump. You can even see I just got hit there, and I'll get hit a couple more times by doing some other riskier stuff. Honestly, you can do this entire section without getting hit just by jumping in and out of these walls. But I'm going to speed up the footage here because this is a long fight, and like I said, it's going to take a while to do. These hunters have a lot of health. One more tip that you can do to speed up this is after you hit the hunters a couple times, you will break their back armor, and if the hunters lose track of where you are and you end up sneaking past them, you can get a couple shots off with your sniper and hit their weak spot, and it'll do a lot more damage. And real quick, right before we actually speed up this one last thing, you can see how I ended up launching the hunter right in front of me here out of bounds. They can shoot you when they get launched out of bounds there, but they will primarily focus on getting back inside the circle there. So you can see if you do need shields, that would be a good time to melee them, as when they're hopping back up, they won't be focused on shooting you. Or if you don't need shields, pull out your sniper and try to get a couple quick shots onto their weak spot like I did there. That tremendously speeds up the time. It does way more damage than just shooting with a rocket does. So, alright, we're going to speed up the footage here for real this time. Now real quick, one more thing to keep in mind is if you end up going further down the circle like I am here, there's going to be a brute with a skewer that'll be in line of sight of you. So if you are down the circle and you're going to be using this side of the circle frequently, I would just recommend quickly taking out your sniper. 3 shots will kill him, and you should be able to shoot him before he shoots you. And so long as you do that, you won't have to worry about him. That's the only other guy. And one more final tip that you could use to speed this up is that I forgot to mention earlier, is you can actually just start throwing dynamos over there, and you can see the hunter was actually very low when I started doing that, and I ended up just killing him with the dynamos. So then you can just do that, speed it up, and I'm actually going to be cutting the footage here, and we're just going to be skipping straight to the boss fight, as the rest of the level is literally you just walking to the boss fight, and then it's the boss. So we're just going to skip ahead to that. So our main strategy we're going to be doing with the boss is we're just going to be using the rocket launcher almost the entire time. And I usually just like to switch to my motion sensor because we're going to be hiding around this corner couple pillars here. And we're just going to be running around these pillars, staying out of line of sight of him. I'm just trying to shoot him directly with the sensor just so I can see him the entire time. But anytime he starts shooting at you, just make sure you stay on the opposite side of the pillar as him, and he won't be able to hit you no matter what. And then whenever he's paused and he's not quite shooting, just pop out, shoot him with 2 rockets. Doesn't matter where you hit him, as you're going to break his limb things eventually, as your rockets are going to be doing progressive damage to all 4 of them at once. So if you just keep hitting the center of them, eventually you'll be breaking all of them at once. But yeah, we're just going to be doing this over and over again, and I'll kind of speed it up as it also is kind of a time sink, but like I said, that's really the only strategy here. Real quick though, right before I do, is once you damage one of his limbs and he goes into that stasis, if you got hit a couple times, you can go and melee him in the eye, and that'll regain your shields since he's going to be totally defenseless there. And for some reason he decided to get stuck right here, so I just kind of pulled out my sniper and just was shooting one of them by itself. But this is actually what I was talking about here. So right before we speed this up, sorry I keep lying to you about that. See, we can just melee him in the eye, and I got my shields back. Now we're running back, and we're going to be repeating this process over and over again. Alright, and once you're done killing the boss, you just walk over to the center, activate the terminal, and you're done with this level. This is a nice, simple, easy level that you're able to do. And the next one, Pelican Down, is unfortunately one of the hardest ones. I'd say this Pelican Down or Excavation Site is probably the hardest one to do. But good news is Pelican Down is going to be the last hard one we have. All the rest of them are going to be easy, relatively at least. Hope you found this guide helpful. If you did, please stay tuned for the next couple guides I have, especially for one for Pelican Down, as this one is going to be the last one before we're able to use our LASO cheese method where we get our thrusters upgraded. So it's going to be a little bit difficult, but we got this, and I'll see you next time.